Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about this coronary band displacement. Now, this foot here that I did a dissection on, which I'll include the link to, that I did quite a while ago. And when the foot was fresh, before it had shriveled up, because remember, all this soft part of most of the foot just shrivels up to nothing. All right. In fact, you can see there how much. See, this is the bulb, and the lateral cartilage should be filling this area up here. All right. So I did a cast of this, which is right here when it was fresh. So this is exactly how the foot was when it was fresh. Now, I broke part of it here. Oops. But right here you can see the lateral cartilage and the bulbs, how full they were. Okay, there's your periopal skin again that covers the bulb and goes around the top of the foot. Okay, here's again your coronary band groove, where this coronary band here is supposed to fit, from which your hoof wall grows. Now, I made this and had it for over a year and looked at it a lot. But then, see, this is a great thing about making a casting of a live foot. You always have this to look at. If the hoof had problems you didn't notice before, eventually, if you look at it enough, you're going to notice things. And so, I'm looking at it one day, and I noticed that he had coronary band groove displacement. I'm going to show you here. Okay, do you see where I've outlined in ink right in here? Where am I? The shape of the coronary band groove. Okay, do you see how it's not fitting on the coronary band? Let's see. See, it's been pulled out and it's slipped up. And on the real foot, which I've posted on the group site, all the dissection pictures from this foot. And if you really study this wall right in here, you're going to see he had actually quite a bit of separation. And that because of that separation, it just pushed the groove up like this. And on the pictures as well, you can see the periopal skin right there, how it kind of loops up like so, where it's attached to the foot, or to the leg up here and the hide. Okay, now I'm also doing a markup that shows how if I was to remove this wall, oh, I've got a horse running for some reason. If I was to remove this wall and just bring it back down to where it would fit, the coronary band groove would fit around the coronary band, it would move this whole area down and back as well, to where the sole here that's growing out forward of the foot would come back closer under the toe of the coffin bone right here. So this, if your coronary band groove is displaced, it's going to affect the growth all the way down like this. Now look at this wall. Look at the shape right here of the coffin bone. You see it, the coffin bone doesn't just grow straight like that, does it? See how it's kind of curved? Well, technically your wall should have the same slight curve to it. Kind of a slight curve out. See, if it's really, truly, tightly connected, it will have that. And what that does is that slightly brings, let's see, that slightly brings this wall here kind of back like that, so that it will contain the sole that grows under here, under the foot where it belongs. See? So, even though we're discussing what's wrong, I haven't really come up with any ways for you to fix this yet, but we will discuss that later on. first thing, now I started this out because I said first we have to get to know the true foot, right? Okay, well, we are, in a sense, doing that because we're seeing how this capsule is not fitting to this internal foot. This internal foot has a certain shape. Now, one thing I noticed on this was that when I removed half the hoof, well, I didn't notice it right away. It took over a year for me to look and see and have it dawn on me. And so, that's why I'm so glad I took a copy of this foot. Okay, when I took this half of the capsule off, this whole foot relaxed in all the places where the capsule had grown wrong and distorted and was pulling or pushing or shoving the soft tissues. Now remember, this whole area of the foot is soft. Is not that correct? Well, what happens is, okay, say your heels grow long and the wall bends down, well, forward and things like that. Okay, well, since it's all connected in here to these soft tissues, it's going to pull all that with it. See, it'll pull all that with it. If your heels grow long and then start, the weight of the horse here starts pulling this forward, okay, well, it's all connected up in here. Is not that correct? Okay, so it ain't just your heel right here that's moving forward. It's this whole area of wall here that is being pulled that way and then down and then under. So all this soft tissue, including everything in the heel, all of this here is being pulled down and under the foot, like so, including the frog right here. This frog, all being pulled by the hoof capsule that grew too long and got leverages and torque in different places and got pushed and smashed forward. Because once it gets pushed, once it slowly gets pushed, that's the way it grows. See, if you don't catch it before it gets too bad, these horn tubules here that should be a certain angle going down start growing at a more forward angle. And so, when I removed the hoof capsule, well, then everything that had been being held in the back of the foot, right here, relaxed and was able to go back to its more natural position, because it was no longer held in the vise of the distorted hoof capsule. And so I didn't notice this for about a year. And one thing I noticed, I don't know if I can get you to see it, let's see, okay, was that this lateral cartilage right here and this bulb slightly lifted up, whereas this one was still being held down and under by the hoof capsule. See, so this is what got me to think, because I've been studying wild horse feet for a long time, looking at the shape of them and trying to figure them out, trying to understand the whole mystery about them, besides just the fact that from the time they're born till the time they die, if they're living on the desert, they pretty much wear their feet according to how much they grow, and they never get any, the heels never get too long, really. Nothing ever gets too long, and so the capsule stays the same shape as the internal foot. And when you remove the capsule off the foot of just about any horse, all their feet are the same. There might be slight differences, but for the most part, this foot on every horse is just the same, just like our feet are the same. Okay, well, how do our feet differ? That's good English. How do our feet differ? You know, in size, in width, you know, maybe in how big our toes are, but anatomically, our feet are all the same, folks. That's right. Same thing with the horse. Anatomically, inside the feet are all the same. If we were to remove the hoof capsules off of 100 horses and examine them, we would not be able to really tell which breed was which. You know, we might, okay, so anyway, let's move on from there. So this hoof capsule, it can distort into many different shapes that are similar to, but not like, the shape of the internal foot. And it is the shape of this internal foot in all respects that we must study and understand and know. From how it looks like here, to what it looks like here, to what it looks like here, the shape, the form, everything, because we have to know that so well that when we're dealing with this, we know if something's off, the shape and form and fashion of this. Okay. And so that's what we're going to do, is we're going to study the structure of this and know it so well that we will be able to understand how to trim, what to leave, what to take, when something is not right, not fitting correctly according to the specs of this. Now, quite a few years ago, I did a video where I was sitting outside, and I remember I had a picture of the internal foot of the horse. And that was my inspiration, the internal foot of the horse. But I never carried it far enough. If I would have just gone a little farther with that, I wouldn't have spent, 4 years trying to figure all this out. I would have known right away. If I would have known this better, the whole, just the shape, then, and realized that my eyes deceived me when I was trimming this, I'd have been a lot further along. My horses would have been further along, and I'd have been able to correct a bunch of things that were holding the hoof back from being what it was supposed to be. And what we want here, we want this to conform to and grow to and follow in all respects this whole part of the foot here. So that's what we're going to study. And we're going to get to know this foot so well that we will be able to recognize, and we're going to come up with ways to know this foot, and ways to know when this part is not following the shape and form of this. So we will recognize hoof distortion, because right now there's a lot of things we're not recognizing. For one thing, that I've been noticing, and being able to see more and more, because see, as I see this more clear, I see this more clear. And so one thing that I've noticed was that a lot of toes I thought were round were actually square. Because there's a real, the way this foot grows, it's got so many strange, odd angles that it's very deceptive. It's very deceptive. So, but there are things we can do, signs, measurements, things like that, that we can apply generically to come to a good idea of how this is fitting on a horse's foot and where things are off, and things you can read in the foot. Things that have been put there for us to read. One of the things that's been put there for us to read, now, the wall is composed of horn tubules that grow down vertically. Now, they may go down at an angle here, all the way. They grow down at an angle that way. But this is what, basically vertical. Yeah, that's right. Okay, vertical. Up and down, right? Okay, they may not grow perfectly vertical, but they grow vertically forward at an angle, right? All right, so to keep that wall together, you have what's called intertubular horn. Okay, now, which that's like the glue that's in all this, that holds it all together in the tubules. Now, you'll be able to look at this hoof and see lines. See? Can you see the lines growing down? Okay. Well, you have a grid in the hoof. Okay? Because the intertubular horn also forms lines. Okay? But they're horizontal lines that go around like this. And you should be able to see them in almost every hoof. Now, the way to tell if your foot, if your hoof capsule is not balanced in your trimming, because you can't tell always by looking at the bottom or sighting down the foot. You know, we sight down this way and we look from side to side and stuff. You can't always tell that way, but I'll tell you what never lies. These do not lie. Your eyes might lie, but these lines going straight up and down and around, vertically and horizontally do not lie. They tell you what is truly going on with the foot. Okay, now, what you want to try and get is you want to get a fairly even grid going here. See, now look at both these feet. Can you see the lines in them? Are they telling you anything? I'll give you a chance to look there. Study the lines. Remember, you got a grid. And then this way too. Now when I look at it, I see that over here, that this intertubular horn line, which they call a growth line, okay, that it comes around like here, right here it raises. Isn't that correct? You know what that means? That means that for a while, I've been trimming high on this area of the foot from here to here. See, but look, could I tell by looking at the sole? No, it all looks the same, don't it? Wall looks the same width. Sole looks the same. But the grid don't lie. See, so anymore, I start trimming kind of by the grid. Now, you're going to notice something here. This has been going on for a while. All right, leaving this area high. And part of the reason we do that is because of our eyesight and our body mechanics when we're trimming. Okay, so I've been leaving this, what you call the pillar area, high. And so eventually what happened? I started to get coronary band. The coronary band got shoved up. You see, that coronary band it moves. All right? And this will move to a certain degree, up and down, even when it's rightly connected with this. It will move a certain degree. So you got a little bit of latitude. Not a lot, but a little bit. And this will stay connected correctly. All right? But once it gets past a certain point, then that area wall is going to shove up into here. So, what happens here is because I trim and I leave this area long, right here, or high. Okay, first of all, slowly this is getting weighted more. Hits the ground sooner. Okay, the foot's trying to adjust. It's affecting the connection in the lamina here, and it's being shoved up like that. It's also prevented from growing as easily beyond the sole. And so it starts shoving up, and you can see how this is pushed up on this side, this whole side here. See how it's pushed up? So what I would need to do, okay, I need a pen or something. Okay, I got this. I'll just use this to point. Okay, I see where this is shoved up over here. So I know that I'm leaving this long right down here. So I'm going to look below and follow the horn tubule down to right there and make a mark. I'm going to look over on the side where it's high. Follow the horn tubule down, make a mark. Onto my sole here. And then I'm going to take this area here to here down with my rasp, like so. to lower it. You see that? Just this area. Take this down a little lower, because what will happen then is this will relax and it'll come back down, and then these lines will start getting symmetrical going around the foot here. Okay, well, that's enough for this session. Time for a break. Okay, we were talking about the coronary band groove. Now, we got to keep going back to the fact that this is the foot of the horse. Now, remember, this one is dried up. It's not fresh. All this is movable on the back. All right? And so, you know, everything has a certain shape and a certain form and a certain dimension. Okay? This should mimic that form perfectly. Fit to this perfectly. Okay? So this we always go back to. And the more we understand the shape and forms of everything that is on this foot, the more we're going to understand when we look at this how something is not quite in the correct shape and form. And, you know, it is kind of hard because there's so many, I mean, it's such an odd shape to begin with. Okay? I mean, really. You've got all these different ways that it's growing. It's simple, but it's complex at the same time. But it's not beyond our understanding. If you can take one of those tests they give little kids, you know, or let's say the toys we had when we were little kids, where you had these little wooden block things, and there was a triangle and a square and a circle and a cross, and you had to sit there and figure out which one of those little blocks went into that, like you put in a square peg in a round hole type of deal. No, you put the star where the star went, and the triangle, and the half moon, and things like that. Well, this is the same thing. Okay? This is what you're trying to fit here. So the more you understand and can see the shapes of things, the more you're going to understand if this is fitting correctly. You know, the shapes, the dimensions, the lengths of different issues on this foot, the more you're going to be able to recognize in this capsule. And this has to fit everything that's on here. So I will keep going back to that because, see, even though this was my original inspiration, I never thoroughly studied it out like I should have. And so I was missing a whole bunch of things. Okay, we have to get to know this internal foot like the back of our hand. All right? You know, I look at the back of my hand, something going on ain't right, I'm going to notice, like, I cut myself here. I don't even know how I did it or when, but all of a sudden this line shows up on my hand. Well, I know that shouldn't be there, right? Well, I don't remember even cutting myself. So, like again, we get to know this, and we can, like the back of our hand, we're going to know when something ain't right on this right here. Okay, and by understanding this, then we'll understand what to trim and where. It's not a generic trim because every horse's foot is the same and different at the same time. You know, so you'll use tact. When you approach that foot, you'll know what to remove. You'll know what's wrong with it. You won't be wrongly interpreting what you're seeing because that's what happens. People misinterpret what they see, and next thing you know, they're saying that's part of the anatomy. I'm going to show you clearly how that happens with practical examples. You know, everyday stuff that should have dawned on us, but we were missing it because they try and make it all so complicated. And maybe it seems a little complicated now at first because you're maybe, especially if you're new, you're hearing about parts you never heard about before and all that. But it's not any more complicated than tying your shoes. You know, that at one time to us was very difficult. You know, I can remember a lot of things that were difficult to me when I was a kid. Like, I remember him saying, chew with your mouth shut. Boy, I did not understand that one. How can I chew with my mouth shut? You know, things like that. There's another one, because we had rugs all the time. Pick your feet up when you're going over them rugs, because we had, like, throw rugs put all over the house. Kids run through the house and, you know, flip them up and stuff like that. And so, you know, if somebody says, pick your feet up when you walk over that rug, well, it's just not dawning on you what they're talking about. When I am walking, I am picking up my feet, pick up my feet when I walk over the rug. It just didn't dawn on me what they meant. They were meaning, you know, don't mess that rug up. Don't be kicking it. Don't be moving it. You know, don't be messing it up. But as a kid, I remember hearing that and going, I just did not understand. And there's a story, let's see, of a little girl who comes to her dad. And she's just learning to put her shoes on. And her dad looks down on her, and he looks at her shoes, and he says, honey, you got your shoes on the wrong feet. And she innocently looks up at him and says, but Dad, these are my feet. Okay, so think about that. You know, that's understanding. These things I'm telling you are actually simple. Okay? Things need to fit. Square pegs don't go in round holes. See? So, and that's all we're doing here. We're trying to fit the round peg in the round hole. And recognize when we're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. So, everything here has a dimension, a shape, an angle, a length, all that.